All glories to Shri Guru's Gauranga and Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 12, Devotional Service. Text 1. Arjuna Vacha Evam Satata Yuktaye Bhakta Swam Paripashate Ye Chapi Aksharam Avyaktam Tesham Ke Yogavittamaha.
Hare Krishna. Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect, those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship in the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested?
Text 2. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Maye Vaishyamano Yema Nitya Yukta Upasate Shraddhaya Parayopetas Teme Yukta Tamamataha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Those who fix their minds on my personal form are always engaged in worshipping me, with great and transcendental faith, are considered by me to be most perfect.
Text 3 and 4. Yetva aksharam anirdeshyam avyaktam paripasate sarvatragam achintyam cha kutastham achalam dhruvam.
But those who,
Sanniyam yendriya gramam sarvatra samabuddhaya te prapnuvanti mam eva sarvabhuta hiterata.
But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone. Such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me.
Text 5. Kleshodiktarastesham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukham dehavat avapyate.
For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied.
Text 6 and 7. Yetu sarvani karmani mai sanyasya matparaha anyenaiva yogena mam dhyayanta upasate tesham aham samuddarta mrityu samsara sagarat bhavami na chirat partha mai avesita chetasa.
But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Partha, for them, I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death.
Text 8. Mayeva mana adatsva Mayi buddhim nivesaya nivasishyasi mayi eva ata urdvam na samsayaha.
Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always, without a doubt.
Text 9. Atha chittam samadhatum na saknoshi mai sthiram abhyasa yogena tato mam ichhaptum dhananjaya. Dhananjaya.
My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me.
Text 10. Abhyas api asamarthosi matkarma paramo bhava madartham api karmani kurvan siddhim avapyasi.
If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage.
Text 11. Athaitad api ashaktosi kartum madhyogam ashritaha sarvakarma phalatyagam tata kuru yutatmavan.
If however, if however you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated.
Text 12. Shreyo hi gnanam abhyasaj gnanad dhyanam vishishyate dhyanat karma phala tyaga shanti anantaram.
If you cannot take to these practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation, and better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind.
Text 13 and 14. Advaista sarvabhutana maitra karuna evacha nirmamo ahankara samadukha sukakshami santusta satatam yogi yatatma dridha nishchaya mai mano buddhir yo mad bhakta same priyaha.
One who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think of himself as who does not think himself a proprietor, and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me.
Text 5. Yashmano dvijate loko lokano dvijate chayaha harshamarsa bhayodveger muktaya sa cha me priyaha.
He by whom no one is put into difficulty, and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equiposed in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me.
Text 16. Anapeksha suchir daksha udasino gata vyathaha sarvarambha parityagi yo mad bhakta same priyaha.
My devotee, who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some result, is very dear to me.
Text 17. Yo na harshati na dvesti, na sochati na kamshati, subha shubha parityagi, bhakti mamya same priyaha.
One who neither rejoices nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things. Such a devotee is very dear to me.
Text 18 and 19. Samasatru cha mitre cha tatha mana pamanayo sitoshna sukha dukheshu samasanga vivarjitaha tulya ninda stutirmoni santusto yena kenachi aniketa sthirmatir bhakti mame priyo naraha.
One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equiposed in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent, unsatisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge, and who is engaged in devotional service, such a person is very dear to me.
Text 20. Ye tu dharmamritam idam yathoktam paripashate shraddadana mata parama bhaktaste ativa me priyaha.
Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. Thus ends the book. Sorry, Mataji.
No, sir, continue, Mataji.
Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 12th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of devotional service. Hare Krishna, please forgive any mistakes.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Please forgive my mistakes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Krishna Vani Mataji and Namrata Mataji. That was nicely done. Thank you. So, dear devotees, we'll continue with reading of chapter 12, and today we will read and discuss text number 12. But before we do so, as we traditionally do, let's recite the Mangala Charanam prayers. You can also follow. Be unmuted mics. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yata Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutan Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutidevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Astyachadishatarine. Text number 12. Shreyo hi gyanam abhyasaj jnana dhyanam vishishyate dhyanat karma falatagyas Tyagat Chantiranantaram. Word for word synonyms. Shreya, better. He, certainly. Jnanam, knowledge. Abhyasat, then practice. Jnanat, then knowledge. Dhyanam, meditation. Vishishyate is considered better. Dhyanat, then meditation. Karma phala renunciation of the results of fruit of action. Tyagat, by such renunciation. Shanti, peace. Anantaram, thereafter. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation. And better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. Purport. Would anyone like to read?
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, please, Mataji.
As mentioned in the previous verses, there are two kinds of devotional service: the way of regulative principle and the way of full attachment in love to the Supreme Person of Godhead. For those who are actually not able to follow the principle of Krishna consciousness, it is better to cultivate knowledge, because by knowledge one can be able to understand his real position. Gradually, knowledge will develop to the point of meditation. By meditation, one can be able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the gradual process. In the cultivation of knowledge, there are processes which make one understand that one himself is the Supreme, and that sort of meditation is preferred if one is unable to engage in devotional service. If one is not able to meditate in such a way, then there are prescribed duties as enjoined in the Vedic literature for the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras, which we shall find in the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita. But in all cases, one should give up the result of fruits of labor. This means to employ the result of karma for some good cause.
Thank you. Anyone else likes to read the last chapter, last paragraph?
Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, you can.
In summary, to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the highest goal, there are two processes. One process is by gradually development, and the other process is direct. Devotional service in Krishna consciousness is the direct method, and the other method involves renunciation and the fruits of one activities. Then one can come to a stage of knowledge, then to the stage of meditation, then to the stage of understanding, the super soul, and then to the stage of Supreme Personality of Godhead. One may take either the step-by-step process or the direct path. The direct process is not possible for everyone. Therefore, the indirect process is also good. It is, however, to be understood that the indirect process is not recommended but for Arjuna, because he is already at the stage of loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord. It is for the others who are not at this stage. For them, the gradual process of renunciation, knowledge, meditation, and realization of the Super Soul and the Brahman should be followed. But as far as Bhagavad Gita is concerned, it is the direct method that is stressed. Everyone is advised to take to the direct method and surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. So this is a very nice and interesting section of the Bhagavad Gita. So the verse again, Krishna is saying, if you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation. And better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. So Srila Prabhupada summarizes the entire process very nicely in the final paragraph. So Krishna is trying to rope everyone in. Krishna being the loving father of all living entities, he wants to see that everyone is properly situated. And the best situation is to be engaged spontaneously in the devotional service of the Lord. That is explained in the first paragraph, where Srila Prabhupada is talking about there are two kinds of devotional service. One is the way of regulative principles, and the other way is the full attachment in love of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what is the Sanskrit term for the way of regulative principles? Well, in this verse, or in this section, it's called Abhyasa Yoga. But in terms of Srila Rupa Goswami's description, what is the regulative way of devotional service? That is called sadhana. Sadhana bhakti. Yeah. So there's two kinds of devotional service. And then the other type, Prabhupada terms it full attachment in love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What is that type of bhakti called?
Ragunaga.
Sorry? Nirguna? Okay.
Prema Bhakti?
Prema bhakti?
Spontaneous love, right?
Yes. So you said it, Chandrika Mataji?
Raganuga Bhakti, no?
Yeah, I
Yes.
said Raganuga Bhakti. Yeah.
Yes, Raganuga. Actually, it's called Rag Bhakti. Anuga means to follow. So Raganuga Bhakti means to follow one who's got Rag. And the best example of those who have got Rag are the inhabitants of Vrindavan. They love Krishna spontaneously. They don't have to follow the regulative principles to love Krishna. But those who still have lacked the purity, those who have not come to the stage of Rag, then we follow the sadhana bhakti process. Now, Srila Prabhupada gives a very interesting statement in this regard in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, chapter 10, 139, where the verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is Sneha Lesha Peksha Matra Shri Krishna Kripara Snehavasha Anakare Swantantra Achara. Lord Krishna's mercy is dependent only on affection. Being obliged only by affection, Lord Krishna acts very independently. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, very interesting, so pay attention to this. One can serve the Lord in affection or in veneration. Veneration means awe. There's some distance. So one can serve the Lord in two ways, in affection or in veneration. When service is rendered in affection, it is the Lord's special mercy. When service is rendered in veneration, it is doubtful whether Krishna's mercy is actually involved. If Krishna's mercy is there, it is not dependent on any prescribed caste or creed. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to inform Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya that Lord Krishna is the spiritual master of everyone, and he does not care for mundane, caste, or creed. So these are the two ways of devotional service: regulative devotional service and spontaneous devotional service. We should all aspire to reach the stage of Ragatmika Bhakti, where we have attachment. Ragatmika Bhakti means our life is just colored with love for Krishna. But this is not something we can fake. That spontaneous love is there, but it has to be awakened. And how do we awaken it? By the regulative principles, by sadhana bhakti. So that point is being made in these verses by Krishna and further emphasized by Srila Prabhupada in the purport. So for most of us, we start off following the path of sadhana, and through sadhana bhakti, eventually, by the mercy of Krishna, we can reach Raga Bhakti. But we have to be serious. Now, coming back to the last paragraph, Prabhupada then goes further layers down. So Prabhupada talks about two types of processes. One is the direct process, and one is the indirect process. So what is the direct process?
Bhakti.
Bhakti.
Devotional service.
Devotional service. Devotional service is the direct process, because one immediately takes to the devotional service of Lord Krishna. One worships Lord Krishna in, as it says, in devotion, either devotional service in practice or spontaneous. Now, one may ask the question, if the direct process is there, why would anyone want to take the indirect process? Prabhupada gives one example, that if we want to go to the 10th floor of the building, a high-rise building, we have two options. One option is we can take the stairway, and the other option is we can take the elevator. So one may ask the question, if there is an elevator, why would one choose the stairway? There may be different reasons, but in the context of devotional service, is because some people do not have that level of faith. Why don't they have that level of faith? Because of the impurities within the heart. If one has reached a certain level of purity, if one has obtained the mercy of a devotee of Krishna, then one is very fortunate. Kona Bhagyavan Jiva. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jiva. Guru Krishna Prasad Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. One is very fortunate, then one can take the devotional service. But not all people are so fortunate. And for such people, the indirect process is being advocated by Lord Krishna. Because Lord Krishna is recognizing in these verses of the Bhagavad Gita, not everyone can take. Not everyone is like Arjuna, as Prabhupada says. Arjuna, for him, this indirect process that Krishna is describing in this verse, it's not applicable. And what are the indirect processes? They're almost described in reverse. But first is one should come to the stage of giving up the fruits of one's action. Why? Because the mentality of one who is a gross materialist is, I should be the enjoyer, I should be the controller. So this mentality has to be given up from the outset. And then higher than that, is meditation. There's a little slide here, let me show it. Share with you, there's a summary I've made. Watch the time, it's getting late now. So the Acharyas, Srila Vaishnava Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Baladev, Vidyabhushan and Srila Prabhupada has explained. For those who cannot follow the principles of Krishna consciousness, it is better to cultivate knowledge, Gyan. And Prabhupada talks about that in the purport. Those who cannot take to sadhana bhakti, they should follow Gyan. Gyan, or another word is Manana Atmika Bhakti. If that's too difficult, then we should cultivate knowledge. Because by cultivation of knowledge, we come to the Brahman platform, understanding that we are not the body, we are the spirit soul. And when we come to that stage, then we should, next question that arises, okay, I am the Atma, I am the spirit soul. So what is the duty of the spirit soul? What should the spirit soul do? And then there's two things can happen. One is can think that I am Supreme Spirit, and Prabhupada talks about that in the purport again. One can think that one is the personality of Godhead, or one can realize that one is the servant. But if one cannot cultivate knowledge, then one should do meditation. One should do meditation because it is difficult to come to the platform of Brahman or realization of Atma. And if one cannot practice meditation, then one should cultivate renunciation of the results of one's work. And when one gives up the results of one's work by renunciation, one purifies the mind. So all of these different stages are meant to gradually elevate oneself, a person, to the stage of bhakti, devotional service. But for many people, it's not possible. So I'll stop here because it's already 20:35. We should move on to reading. We'll take some questions and comments at the end, but we'll leave it. It's a very nice topic and we can speak a lot about it, but we'll leave it there for now. And we'll continue with our reading of our book, Our Family Business, The Great Art of Distributing Srila Prabhupada's Books by Vaisheshika Das. And for those who practice, actually a book distributor can be on the stage of sadhana bhakti or rag bhakti. Their devotees, for their purification, will go out and distribute Srila Prabhupada's books. Because when we go out and we have to approach people, we have to sacrifice the ego. We have to sacrifice the time. So we may not have the spontaneous desire or taste to distribute books, but we do it out of duty to the spiritual master, duty to the Shastras. But there are devotees, they think, oh, I can't wait for tomorrow when I can go out and distribute Krishna's mercy. They just relish it, and they derive great pleasure, great joy in distributing this knowledge. So someone needs to help me now. I'm told we should read from page number 72 from something called The Impossible, but I can't find that. Can anyone recall where we stopped?
Yes, Prabhuji, from page 92.
92, which line or which paragraph?
92, starting from doing the impossible.
Yeah, but I can't see doing the impossible anyway. Yeah.
On page 92?
Yeah. Shall I just start from persistence and prayer then?
Okay,
Page
yes.
92. All
Yes,
right.
thank you, Prabhuji.
Persistence and prayer. Encouraged by Srila Prabhupada's generous spirit, many women dedicated their lives to full-time book distribution. Labanga Latika Devi Dasi joined ISKCON in Los Angeles in 1968, when the temple was located in La Cienega Boulevard. An exemplar of determination, she tells how she struggled, but became a prolific book distributor through persistence and prayer. She tells about her early days in ISKCON, selling Back to Godhead. Quotation, my friend Srimati Dasi told me, this staying back at the temple is illusion. So we started going out door to door with Back to Godheads. We'd distribute and come home with Lakshmi, and Tamal Krishna, our temple president, would give a whoop of delight when he'd see what we'd done. When Srila Prabhupada heard about our going out to distribute Back to Godhead, he was very happy and would regularly ask us, how many magazines did you distribute today? He would come from his apartment to the nearby La Cienega temple to give darshan 3 evenings a week. At those times, he'd also teach us to dance in kirtan. To please him, we would go out 8 hours a day to distribute Back to Godhead. For me, each day would start as misery. But after selling Back to Godhead all day and bringing the results to Prabhupada, I'd feel as if I were in the spiritual world, Krishna Loka. Much like many of us have experienced, isn't it? To go out, it's trepidation, fear. Will I offend people? Who is behind that door? And we start off with the negative. Oh, I'm sure they're not going to take. I'm sure they're going to be annoyed that I'm knocking on their door. So it's a big austerity. It's miserable for many of us. But then when we do it, and we experience that our fears, our preconceptions are not there, people are actually very nice. Many people are just waiting to receive these books. Then we have a completely contrary experience. We experience great joy, great bliss. At first, Labanga Latika sold Back to Godhead, but later she switched to big books. Here she describes how a sincerity and daily prayer to Krishna inspired her distribution. For me, book distribution was a deep meditation. Sometimes I would go out without thinking and I'd get rebuffed. Rebuffed means to get rejected. But then I'd start sincerely praying to Krishna. But I found that he would only reciprocate when I'll really surrender. If I surrendered to the task at hand, I could talk to people and they'd be open. Otherwise, I'll be on my own and I'll end up crying in a telephone booth. Every day I'd learn good lessons. You had to. It was Krishna or the material world. It was a great privilege to even touch Srila Prabhupada's books. I don't know how I managed to find myself in such great association and with Srila Prabhupada's books. Sincere efforts like this, Srila Prabhupada openly and unreservedly appreciated. Seeing sincere efforts like this, Srila Prabhupada openly and unreservedly appreciated his disciples, just as his Guru Maharaj had done. Every day, Rameshwar would type out the day's book distribution scores in Los Angeles and give them to one of Srila Prabhupada's servants. He would then wait for them to come down from Srila Prabhupada's room and would ask them if Srila Prabhupada had said anything. On March 20, Ramananda handed. On the back was this hand test to the boys. This is fantastic. This is Srila Prabhupada writing. My dear boys and girls, you are working so hard for broadcasting the glories of Lord Krishna's lotus feet. And thus my Guru Maharaj will be so pleased upon you. Certainly my Guru Maharaj will bestow his blessings 1,000 times more than me, and that is my satisfaction. All glories to the assembled devotees, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, NB. Everyone should go with the Sankirtan party as soon as possible. So today is the most auspicious disappearance day of Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So reading these words of Srila Prabhupada is saying that, and Prabhupada gave all credit to his Guru, that his Guru Maharaj Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur will bestow blessings 1,000 times more than he would. He would be so pleased. Sometimes he said, the grandfather is more merciful than the father. So Srila Prabhupada is using that here, that his spiritual master would be so much more pleased, because that order for book distribution came from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So, here it is so obvious that how important this book distribution service is. How many devotees we've got here? 35 online today. And I don't know how many of you all have signed up to the challenge. We were looking to get 300 devotees signed up. At the moment, we've got about 156, just over half. So if you are not officially signed up, I will send the link on our chat group. Please sign up. And what are you signing up? You are signing up to dedicate 16 hours between the 1st of December and the 24th of December just to present Srila Prabhupada's books. Not sell, no target, just to present. My dear neighbor, my dear friend, my dear work colleague, my dear cousin, my dear mother, my dear father, here is something very valuable. This is transcendental knowledge. By transcendental knowledge, we can reach the highest perfection stage of human life. Please avail yourself to this knowledge, take this knowledge. That's all we have to do. So there's still time. Today is the 12th of December. We're halfway through our marathon. And when you sign up, when we make that commitment, it's making a big statement to Lord Krishna. We're making a statement to Lord Krishna that I'm serious. I'm serious about wanting to please you by distributing your knowledge. And also when we make a commitment, then the magic starts to happen. And that we start to think, 16 hours. When will I do my first hour? When will I do my second hour? Shall I go to the book table? Or what should I do? And Prabhupada says, simply by thinking how to do, one gets liberated. What to speak when we actually do. So dear devotees, those who have signed up, all glories to your service. Those who have done their 16 hours, fantastic. Those who have done some of their 16 hours, fantastic. Those who haven't done, still fantastic. You made the commitment. So let's do it. We've got a huge target of 3 million Bhagavad Gitas worldwide, 25,000 Bhagavad Gitas from Bhaktivedanta Manor, and 25,000 other books. So we're reading so much, we're hearing so much. There is Gyan and there's Vigyan. Gyan means knowledge. Vigyan means realized knowledge. That realization comes by Krishna's mercy. So I'll stop here. Are there any questions or comments or corrections or additions anyone has?
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna. Thank you for a wonderful class. Very deep subject today, so thank you. Just an observation, Prabhuji. We are taught from our acharyas that Raganuga Bhakti is for Uttam Adhikaris, and for us sadhakas, or at least me as a sadhaka, not for you, Prabhuji, but for us as sadhakas, we're supposed to be following Rupanuga and not Raganuga, because it is too high a level for us to be able to follow the direct associates of Krishna, because Raganuga means the direct ragas that direct associates of Krishna have. But we as sadhakas are supposed to follow Rupanuga, i.e. we're supposed to follow the mood of Rupa Goswami, and in the mood of a servant of a servant of a servant, rather than being direct followers. Is that correct? I've picked that up from
Not entirely.
of,
As Rupanuga, see, Rupa Goswami, he has a Sadhaka Rup and he's got Siddha Rup. Sadhaka Rup is his form as Rupa Goswami, as we experienced in Vrindavan. His Siddha Rup is Rupa Manjari in the spiritual world. So as Raganugas, we follow the Sadhaka Rup of Rupa Goswami as Rupanugas, and we also follow the Siddha Rup. But the question that remains, at what point do we transition from sadhana to Raganuga? It's a very fine line. If one does it prematurely, one starts to, and what does Raganuga actually mean? That as itself is a big subject matter. Essentially, just like an expert gardener, just by opening his nostrils and smelling, he can tell you what flowers are in the garden. So in the same way, the expert spiritual master, he can know when the devotee has reached the stage of rag. And then the spiritual master will say, you can follow this resident in Vrindavan in a certain way. But it's an elevated subject matter. I don't want to go into too much detail. But in terms of what you said, as Rupanugas, yeah, we follow the Sadhaka Rupa and the Siddha Rupa of Rupa Goswami, but that depends on us. Generally, we all start off in the stage of sadhana bhakti, but depending on how much we progressed in our last life, the journey of sadhana bhakti in this life can be quite short, and one transitions into rag bhakti very quickly. Or if we have not made substantial progress, then we spend more time in the path of sadhana, and then we transition to Raganuga bhakti. So it all depends. It depends. I hope I answered the question, Prabhu.
Yes, no, thank you. And a related corollary question then. We are encouraged by Krishna, as we read today, that we should be aiming to develop a direct sadhana relationship where it is in devotional service, but i.e. One of relationship with Krishna, but also Prabhupada warns us that we should also always keep awe and reverence, which is a juxtaposition to having a direct relationship with Krishna, because awe and reverence means you have to keep distance. And at what point should we allow ourselves to have a relationship with Krishna of conjugal love or parental love or whatever it is that our mood allows us to develop? And at what point should we say, no, actually we can't do that because we're not qualified, we have to be awe and reverence? Because one will never develop it, because as a devotee, you'll always feel you're not qualified to have that, but you want to, you're always craving for that personal relationship with Krishna. But Prabhupada warns us that we should always serve the deities in awe and reverence, not in personal. I presume those are deities he's referring to are temple deities as opposed to your home deities. So it's probably different at home. But a little bit of guidance on that, Prabhu?
Well, it's both in the temple or at home. Well, the big question is, at what stage do we start to allow our spontaneous nature to manifest in the way we deal with the Lord in his Acha Vigraha form? It depends on our level of purity. I look at it two different ways. When we reach the stage of Sudanam, a lot of what we do and progress in spiritual life is done in relation to our relationship with the holy name. When we reach the stage of Sudanam, pure chanting, that is the stage where we can see the deity in a more spontaneous mood. Also, Prabhupada says it all depends on purification. As long as we are attached to the material, as long as we are still influenced by the three modes of material nature, as long as we still have some even semblance of desire for the opposite sex and for name, fame, and pride, then we should be on the platform of sadhana and worshipping the Lord as a sadhaka. So that's some of for my own spiritual life, that's how I see it. Come to the stage of Sudanam, yes. We have attachment for the holy name. And when we are free of material desires, free of the influence of material modes, then we can start thinking of Rag Bhakti and so on, as confirmed by the Vaishnavas and the spiritual master. I don't know if that helps, Prabhu.
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much indeed. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you very much. All glories to your service. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Vanchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhu Ananta Kuri Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Go Premanande.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the
Hare
wonderful
Krishna.
class.
Prabhuji, Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Thank you.
Beautiful
Hare
class.
Krishna, everyone. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.